looks like the Republicans are finally waking up. I mean, who would have ever thought? It looks like the stupid party is finally recognizing that if they don't get off their arses and go beyond sending out angry tweets and making a bunch of meaningless, empty threats night after night on Fox, who hardly any of us are watching anymore, they're not going to be a party anymore. The rank and file grassroots, we the people, are seething. We are rising up and rebelling first and foremost against our feckless Republican leadership. And we're telling them that if you don't get off your asses and do something about this, you're not going to have a political party anymore. And it looks like they're getting the message. They're finally responding. We're going to find out in due course here in the show. They're finally getting ready to actually fight against this rogue DOJ that's become, for all practical purposes, the DNC headquarters. And they're taking aim, direct aim, at Jack Smith, this pathetic, repulsive rogue prosecutor who may indeed end up getting indicted himself as a result of this latest pathetically and obviously desperate attempt to thwart what is appearing to be almost inevitable at this point, and that is the reascendance of Donald J. Trump to the presidency as the 47th president of these United States. But first, gang, did you know that the latest data from the American Heart Association indicates that adults with fatty liver are 3.5 times more likely to have heart failure than those without? And did you know that according to the American Liver Foundation, as many as 100 million Americans have fatty liver? Gang, that's you, that's me. We can't save America if we don't take care of ourselves. Our livers are our body's master detoxifier. But after decades of wear and tear, our livers slow down and become sluggish. I mean, this is why so many of us struggle with weight gain and feeling tired all the time. But gang, fortunately, there's a simple, all-natural solution. Liver Health Formula contains 12 powerful botanicals clinically proven to recharge and protect your liver at the cellular level. It helps restore your liver's detoxifying abilities. It boosts your energy levels, and it works remarkably well to fight that horribly fatty liver. Liver Health Formula is backed by proven science and approved by America's doctors. And the best part, gang, is every bottle is manufactured right here in the good old US of A. And if you click on that link below right now, you could try Liver Health Formula completely risk-free and receive 5 free gifts when you order today. So don't wait. Click on that link below or go to getliverhelp.com/Turley right now to claim your risk-free supply of Liver Health Formula and all 5 bonus gifts. That's getliverhelp.com/Turley. Sir Walter Scott said it best. Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. In other words, when one acts dishonestly, that corruption, that deception inevitably initiates a whole host of compounding deceptions that eventually and inexorably run out of control, so much so that the deceiver may end up caught in his own spun web. That is exactly what appears to be happening to the absurd special prosecutor Jack Smith and his utterly ridiculous sham indictment against President Trump. And according to Harvard constitutional professor Alan Dershowitz, Smith may himself be looking at his own indictment. Speaking on Fox Business the other day, Dershowitz made the argument that Smith himself could actually be indicted under the very terms of this indictment. I'll say that again. According to Dershowitz, the worst thing about the sham indictment is that Jack Smith could end up being indicted under the very terms of the indictment itself. The core of the indictment, the centerpiece, the linchpin, the crux is that Donald Trump lied to the public. That's the key. Now, many of you may be familiar with my namesake, Jonathan Turley. I name drop him all the time on any legal issue. Professor of law at George Washington University. His argument against this indictment is that it's basically the prosecution of free speech. Right? The government is now officially threatening to throw you in jail if you speak out against their approved narratives. So if they say an election was absolutely pristine and secure, and you publicly declare there was fraud, they can now throw you in prison. So as a way of getting around that First Amendment charge, Smith is trying to convince a jury, and by the way, that jury needs no convincing. D.C. juries are notoriously corrupt. They're absolute wacko liberal nuts. And many are making the argument that the whole D.C. court system should be disbanded. But regardless, Smith is trying to convince a jury that Trump knowingly lied. He knew that the election of 2020 was so absolutely pristine. It was so honest, it would have made a Boy Scout blush. Trump knew that. He's always known that. But he decided to lie about it. And in lying about it, he incited a riot. That's, in a nutshell, as I understand it, that's in a nutshell what this indictment fundamentally is all about. Now, anyone who's anyone could see just on the surface, prima facie, how utterly absurd this is. Everyone who's anyone knows Trump is absolutely convinced the election is stolen. He may be deluded. He may be totally wrong, right, just for the sake of argument. He may be utterly delusional. But there's no way anyone can make the plausible argument that Trump believes that the 2020 election was the most pristine election ever to take place in history. And to make matters even worse, Jack Smith actually stepped in it. He stepped in one of the most ridiculous, worst self-owns imaginable because he cited as evidence that Trump knew there was no widespread fraud. He cited as evidence that Trump was told that there was no widespread fraud by the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. That's why we know Trump was lying, because according to Jack Smith, he was told personally by the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency that the election was completely pristine with no widespread fraud or interference. The reason why that's such a ridiculous self-own is that we now know, thanks to the Twitter files, that that agency directly interfered in the 2020 election by censoring Americans. You can't make this stuff up. Your Patriot professor is going to lose it here, gang. I mean, you're going to have to give me a straitjacket here. That agency worked closely with Twitter employees on numerous occasions to deliberately censor social media posts that they described as Russian disinformation. You know, such absurd notions like Biden's son had a laptop filled with emails detailing illicit international business deals he made with his father, along with crack-induced pornographic photographs. Of course, the morally upstanding, beyond reproach Joseph Biden would never do that. Russia! That came directly from this very agency that Smith cites as a reputable source for election integrity. You can't make this stuff up, gang. I mean, if this were a storyboard for a Netflix, screw Netflix, or for some drama series, I mean, nobody in the room would take it seriously. They'd be like, no one's going to believe that. That's just too obvious. It's pathetic. Nobody's that stupid. This nut of a prosecutor cited as his evidence that Trump knew there were no shenanigans an agency, a cybersecurity agency that the Twitter files revealed to be engaged in the very shenanigans Trump is complaining about. But it gets worse. Because as I understand it, even if Trump knowingly lied, that's still protected speech. He can't be prosecuted for saying things he knows are not true. Again, for sake of argument. If that were the case, think of how many politicians would be prosecuted if that were the case. I mean, for heaven's sakes, Adam Schiff would be at Guantanamo Bay. And by the way, the Supreme Court's already ruled on this. The Supreme Court has ruled under an opinion of Chief Justice William Rehnquist that under the First Amendment, there is no such thing as a false opinion or false idea. The response to a false idea is the marketplace of ideas, or election day, which is what they're trying to take away from us, right? But apart from material incidents like signing a contract or defamation, whatever, which, by the way, is itself very hard to prove, but apart from that, lying is not a criminal offense. So just on the surface, this indictment is utterly and patently absurd. But it gets worse. Dershowitz argued that he read through the whole thing, this whole 40-plus page indictment, and he concluded that is, simply put, one of the most bizarre documents he's ever read in his entire legal career, especially given the fact that it lays the groundwork. It lays the groundwork for the indictment of the very person who is issuing the indictment. If the core of the indictment is that Donald Trump lied to the public, if that's the basis of indicting Trump, then Jack Smith himself has a huge problem. And that's because Jack Smith cites as his central evidence of this Donald Trump's speech that he made on January 6th. So in many respects, it's the centerpiece of the indictment in terms of the evidence given. The problem is that Jack Smith, according to Dershowitz, deliberately, willfully, and with malice leaves out Trump's call for his supporters to protest what? Make sure you protest what? Peacefully and patriotically. The indictment leaves out the key words peacefully and patriotically when it quotes his speech. Which, and of course, those key words place that speech thoroughly within the realm of the protections of the First Amendment. In other words, Jack Smith doctored the speech, which is simply another way of saying Jack Smith lied. He deliberately misrepresented what Trump said. Again, as Dershowitz asserted, this is a lie. It's what we call a lie of omission. And if you're going to indict someone for telling lies, don't tell lies on the indictment.